Okay. I'm going to call this meeting to order of the Sacramento Solid Waste Authority on April 8th, 2021 at 3:02 p.m. Madam Clerk, if you could please call the roll and then establish a quorum.
Yes. Desmond?
Here.
Lalohi? Cerna? Kennedy?
Here.
Guetta?
Here.
Vang?
Here.
Natoli? Frost?
Here.
And you have a quorum.
Great. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay. Do you mind if the clerk doesn't mind reading the announcement? Greatly appreciate it.
No problem. In compliance with directives of the County, State, and Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, this meeting is live streamed and closed to in-person public participation. Temporary procedures are subject to change pursuant to guidelines related to social distancing and minimizing person-to-person contact. To make a verbal comment at today's meeting, dial 916-875-2500 and follow the prompts to be placed in queue for a specific agenda item or off-agenda matter. When the chair opens public comment for a specific agenda item or off-agenda matter, callers will be transferred from the queue into the meeting to make a verbal comment. Written comments are also accepted. Send your email comment to board clerk at saccounty.net, and your comment will be routed to the board and filed in the record. This meeting of the Solid Waste Authority is cable cast live on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast Consolidated Communications and AT&T Uverse cable systems. The meeting is closed captioned and live streamed at metro14live.saccounty.net. Today's meeting will replay Sunday, April 11th at 4 p.m. on Channel 14. This meeting can also be viewed on Metro Cable 14's YouTube channel. And that concludes my announcements.
Great. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Let's go ahead and jump into item 1.
All right. Thank you very much. Tim Israel with SWA staff. Mr. Sloan was detained with some other county business today, and he hopes to join us in a little bit. So with that, I'll jump right into the general manager's update. We got the slides up. There we go. All right. SWA dissolution update. We are very close, obviously. This is our last SWA meeting. And so give you an update at where we're at. County code amendments were introduced to the board on March 23rd, adopted earlier this week, and will become effective May 6th. So we're moving ahead there. The city was out ahead of us, and their code is actually in effect and starting as of March 2nd. So both of those were very important pieces of the puzzle on the dissolution as far as being able to move forward, and we're in good shape there. Both county and city franchise applications are available to our current SWA franchisees, and we have begun both city and county receiving applications, so that process is well on its way. And we expect to bring those agreements to both the council and the board in June. So SWA dissolution with item number 3 today will essentially all business items will be completed for the board by that time.
Well, thank you, Mr. Israel.
Yeah, I've got a couple more slides here. Hold on. Wanted to just show you guys our compliance rate progress. And you'll notice on the organics, the green line, there's a significant drop as of January. And that's a result of the minimum volume that for commercial businesses to have to get organics went from 4 yards to 2. And so that represents those additional generators into the requirements for organics now. So we were clear up to 76% compliance rate. Now we're back down into the 50s, and we'll be making that climb back up for all those new generators. And then finally, as I said earlier, this is our final SWA meeting. Thank you. That concludes my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Israel. No one brought a nail and a hammer for the coffin here, I guess. unanimous for today's final action.
Well,
We'll go
I
ahead
would.
and move on.
Could I just throw in, I'd really like to throw out some kudos to both Aaron and Jennifer here and their staffs on the dissolution efforts. They've really done a great job working together and to bring the city up to speed and get their staffs ready to do this work. I just got to send out my thanks to them for working so well together. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, Aaron. And the concern that I do have, and I hope that we can continue this collaborative effort, will be the education process for many of our businesses and our haulers as we bifurcate the system into a city-county system. So I think the more we can do that, particularly some of us represent areas that are half city, half county, and I think that'll help us all make it easier to do business here in the county. Okay, we'll move on to item number 2.
Item number 2 is your consent items is to approve action summary from March 11th, 2021. And I'm sorry, Chair, I just also wanted to let you know that there was no public comment for item number 1 as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any comments for item number 2, Madam Clerk?
There are no public comments for item number 2, and there are no members of the authority with their hands raised at this time.
Fantastic. I'll ask for a motion.
Frost.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Board Member Frost and seconded by Board Member Desmond. Madam Clerk, if you could please call the roll.
Yes. Desmond,
Aye.
Lalohi, Cerna, Kennedy,
Aye.
Guerra,
Aye.
Vang,
Yes.
Natoli, and Frost.
Aye.
And your motion carries with members Lalohi, Cerna, and Natoli being absent.
Great. Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, now to the main event here, item number 3.
I'm sorry, Jen. Let me just read that into the record. I apologize. Item number 3 is going to be consideration and approval of the Solid Waste Authority's post-dissolution asset and liability distribution schedule. And if we can just get that, did you have a PowerPoint for item number 3? Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Holy smokes. Okay, we're good. Good afternoon, board members. My name is Jennifer Claiborne. I am a program manager with the Solid Waste Authority, here to present to you item number 3. The item here is the consideration and approval of our post-SWA dissolution asset and liability schedule. And the recommendation is to approve the resolution establishing the SWA's post-dissolution asset and liability distribution methodology and authorizing related actions. So this really just summarizes how we're going to take the remaining assets of the SWA and dissolve them into both the city and the county. In the report, you could see the SWA doesn't really hold any assets. There is just a fund reserve balance. There are no physical assets, I should say. So those fund reserves, right now we're estimated at $7.7 million, and we will be taking the distribution method that was established in the past and used every year for our annual budget distribution, doing the same here at the end of this fiscal year. And when it comes to liabilities, there are no liabilities. They'll just be our contracts that are closing at the end of the year. And outside of that, it's pretty simple, straightforward. Do you have questions?
Madam Clerk, do we have any members from the public signed up to speak on this item?
We do not have any public comment at this time for item number 3, and I do not see any hands raised by any of the authority members.
Okay, well, I do want to thank our staff for making this process as painless as possible. Separating and dissolving the agency and creating 2 separate separate entities can be quite challenging. So I want to appreciate everyone's participation in making this as easy and clean as possible for many of our constituents. Any other comments from the board? If not, I don't see any comments there. Then I'll ask a motion from the board to move this resolution.
So moved.
It's been moved by Board Member Vang. Is there a second?
Second, Frost.
It's been seconded by Board Member Frost. Madam Clerk, if you could please call the roll.
Yes. Member Desmond?
Aye.
Lalohi? Cerna? Kennedy?
Aye.
Guerra?
Aye.
Vang?
Yes.
Natoli? And Frost.
Aye.
And your motion carries with members Lalohi, Cerna, and Natoli being absent.
Great. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Okay, we'll go on to some more exciting stuff here. Item number 4, Madam Clerk.
Okay, and item number 4 is going to be status update by the Atrium on the Recycling Challenge art installations.
Hi. Hi, my name is Shira Lane, and I'm here presenting on the Atrium. The Atrium is a 501c3 creative innovation center for sustainability, and our goal is to build the micro-manufacturing community here in Sacramento, but to build it adaptive, regenerative, and omni-considerate. The Atrium is a hub where local creatives, next slide, please. The Atrium is a hub, oh, is this mine? Oh, thank you. Okay. I have to point it at it. There we go. Oh, yay, fancy. Okay, thank you. The Atrium is a hub where local creatives, makers, innovators, artisans, scientists, and inventors work together to do business for good. We improve systems with an action plan to build the circular economy. I have to do it 2 places. Prior to COVID, the Atrium was housed in a 34,000 square foot building with over 18 organizations working together, innovating building solutions. We danced on walls, we had wet lab spaces, and we had indoor drone races, hip-hop dance studios. It was really wonderful, and we held large zero-waste events and educated how to hold zero-waste events. It was wonderful and very fun, and we were all about the youth and engagement and really trying to build the community. COVID hit, and so we had to be adaptive. When our doors had to close and masks were not to be found anywhere, we adapted and utilized our pool of creatives to make masks for the community. Within 18 hours, the Atrium built an online mask marketplace so people of Sacramento could order handmade masks from local creatives when China had nothing to send. With this little endeavor, we were able to pay creatives $35,000 within 3 months. To keep our creatives working, we moved from our large office building to a smaller open-air retail space in Old Sacramento. The city offered us a building that had been abandoned for a decade. We cleaned it, painted it, and upcycled it with a lot of Bondo. And we created an outdoor work area to adhere to COVID and activated what was once a dead space, bringing creativity, sustainability to Old Sacramento waterfront. Our programs. We have a lot of programs at the Atrium, and our program is designed to inspire and nurture a generation of creative minds. We do this by supporting community-grown ideas. This is really important to us, that we listen to our community and we help nurture those ideas. We build the infrastructure, collaborating necessary resources, and we do it with kindness. One of our programs is our artist studios. The Atrium offers affordable, below-market, sustainable studio space for eco-friendly creatives, inventors, and arts organizations. The membership also comes with business and marketing mentorship. We also have an eco-art market called Upcycle Pop. This is a fun outdoor market for eco-friendly art and upcycled items. This happens every Saturday now in historic district of Old Sacramento waterfront. The market creates much-needed opportunities for local creatives from the region to test, market, and sell their work, while inspiring attendees to increase their awareness and social issues on the environment. Sacramento.shop is our newest endeavor. This was thanks to a grant from the City of Sacramento. I'm going to get into that, but this is what the website looks like. It's an online marketplace for locally made eco-friendly items with same-day delivery in Sacramento, plastic-free shipping nationwide, and free pickup from our retail store. In short, it's a little screw you, Amazon. We developed this in Q4 of 2020 to build an e-commerce platform for local creatives who were impacted by COVID. We created for them a virtual storefront, and this was supported by CARES funding from the City of Sacramento. We are very grateful for this. We are currently expanding to add on more creatives, and we're working on reverse logistics for the Circular Economy pilot program, where we will be taking back packaging, returning it to creatives. Creatives will be sanitizing it, refilling it, and bringing it back to the store, creating America's first actual zero waste circular market. Next, there's that. I forgot. 2 hands. The next project that we have is Citizens of Planet Earth, a TV series that we are working, and thank you, Chair, Councilman Eric Guerra, for helping us with this project as well. The Citizens of Planet Earth is a TV series, and we're paying creatives $2 per second for approved content, where they will be educating us and teaching us on how to be creative, how to be a better citizens of planet Earth. We believe that creatives are really thinkers, and they think outside of the box, and they are able to help us guide the next citizens of planet Earth. We also have creative economy meetings. We kind of collaborate. The Atrium provides a collaborative and participatory meeting space. It's currently virtual for the regional creative community. This is a place to meet other creatives, discuss issues, and share opportunities with the goal to strengthen collaborations and lift all boats of the creative sector. These meetings have been a vehicle for advocacy with the creative sector, and we have raised city art budgets and funding by a lot of money. And last and not least, but what we're here to talk about, is our educational playful art exhibits. At the Atrium, we believe Learn by Play is one of the best ways to introduce new concepts. We utilize our large stable of creatives to create playful, educational, and entertaining art exhibits. In 2018, we produced the first Recycle Challenge in our gallery, a game where you had to guess what goes in the blue bin to help people really realize how little we recycle. Excuse me. The Recycle Challenge game came accompanied by an Under the Sacramento River art installation, which was sponsored by Atlas Disposal. And this was that you could walk under, and it felt like you were under the water. You can see here in the middle picture. And what you would see under this blueness is all the plastic waste that is kind of floating by you. And it really created this sense of how we need to act upon this. We have other installations, as you can see the on the left, the flapper dress, which is made by the vape cartridges. I have a lot of programs we do. And this is a Recycle Challenge. So after that, we decided, let's make this mobile. So we put it on in the summer of 2019. We converted the Recycle Challenge installation to a mobile version prototype made of old pallets. It wasn't beautiful, but it was effective. We wanted to test the interaction, interest, and extent of our behavior and the extent of behavior adjustment. The response was positive and appreciative, and it became a group game where friends would bring friends to test their knowledge. It became a little bit of a drinking game for people to play. The problem with it, that it was really hard to move because it was made out of pallets, and I built it myself, so it's not the best. But it was a great prototype. So, Recycle Challenge 2.0. In 2020, the Atrium collaborated with the Sacramento Waste Authority, thank you, to upgrade our Recycle Challenge art installation. Sacramento Waste Authority organized various meetings between the Atrium team and a broad range of Sacramento waste haulers. The meetings were to better understand the haulers' most pressing issues, needs, and obstacles that may lay ahead. The Atrium team consolidated the information into a messaging matrix that was approved by the stakeholders. This messaging grid was used by creative applicants to propose the next design for the Recycle Challenge installation. So we did a call for designs. The Atrium put out a call out to the creatives, our creatives. We have about 500 on our roster, and received 6 suitable applications. The Atrium interviewed the 6 applications and picked the top 3 creative teams to present to the stakeholders. The chosen design was The Beacon by Sean Stillwell Designs. This new design and techno-futuristic style is designed to be a beacon of hope and able to withstand many festival events, count interactions, illuminate at night, and transport easily. Comprised of 3 pods, each offering its own participatory learning experience, integrating a combination of technology, play, and education. Structure. Much consideration and design purpose went into the use and type of materials for this installation. Aluminum framing structure was chosen for its durability, lightweight, and its infinite recyclable qualities. So when and if this installation reaches an end of life, it will be recycled and reincarnated. Pod 1 and 2, digital media tablets are mounted to the center to play the Recycle Challenge video game, and a looping video will be on the other. On the wood paneling, information is etched and displayed to support and help attain points with the Recycle Challenge video game. These panels can be switched out when new information needs to be changed, as information consistently gets changed. The bottom panel displays information on the materials of this installation and the creatives who participated in it, making it all possible. Stakeholder logos. All the stakeholder logos have been placed on the base of the installation, and you're going to be seeing it in just a minute. We have it outside. And this is all the content that was etched on wood. The content on these panels was vigorously reviewed. Actually, it's what took us the most time, but super fun. As you can see here, and on the third pod, there we go. On the third pod, this has a QR code that will lead to a page on the Atrium website for participants to obtain more information and or pledge to become an Atrium Earth ally. This pod will be a rotating art installation of upcycled items to create artistic inspiration for reduce, reuse, repurpose, and recycle. We hope this to become a social media photography spot. Transportation. It's designed to be easily dismantled and put together by one person only and to fit in a small medium car like a Toyota Prius. You'll be shocked at how this breaks down. It's kind of magical once you actually see the thing put together. It is completely solar powered. This art installation, and it's beautifully lit to allure gamers to play and try their hand at the Recycle Challenge, and we promise you it is a difficult challenge. And with that, thank you, and then we can take it out. It is actually presented outside the chamber doors. It didn't fit through the doors here. And I think we have that on Zoom, so we're going to present that. And if there are any questions.
Great, thank you very much. Do we have any members of the board who wish to speak here? I think Mr. Board Member Desmond?
Thank you for the presentation. Thank you, Mr. Chair. But thank you for the presentation. That was great. I am upstairs in my office, and I plan to come downstairs and check it out as soon as we adjourn.
Yay, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Shira.
Thank you.
Board Member Kennedy.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say I too am upstairs at my office, just not that office. This is really exciting. This is super cool. It's too bad this is coming at our last meeting of the SWA, but fantastic work and great vision by the city and all the others that were involved with this. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And I also want to recognize Atlas Disposal, who has been involved a lot with the Atrium, one of our local haulers in the area. One of the key things that I think it's so easy for all of us, even as conscious as we are, to just throw away our waste and forget about it and think that there isn't anything that happens after that, someone else's problem. But it in fact puts an expense and a cost on our local governments, whether it's the city or the county, and even the use of our land, or very limited land, both for those of us who represent the north area of the county or the south area of the county, where a lot of our landfills are. And I think the fact that we're using a different tool, other than having our young people read reports and expect that they're going to learn about being good stewards and using art and employing our artists, was a good way for us during the pandemic to employ people to get a message out in a different way that can convey not only the seriousness, but also a unique way. I was impressed by the flapper dress of vape cartridges, very stylish, but I would have never have guessed those were all vape cartridges. So, kudos to the artists.
Thank you. Yeah, the vape cartridges, that was a Carts for the Arts art exhibit that we did to educate people, because they call those disposable vape cartridges, but really they're not disposable because the cartridge that has the marijuana and the lithium-ion battery that is connected does not disconnect. They've been marketed as disposable, but they can't go to an electronic waste hauler because of the marijuana. They can't go to the marijuana people because of the lithium-ion battery, and you can't throw them in the trash. So really, people can't do anything with them. But with that art exhibit, and just to show that art can change, With that art exhibit, the sponsor, Jupiter, one of the largest manufacturers in the United States, said that they were going to change their marketing. They're no longer going to use the word disposable, and they're redesigning this year their vape cartridges to be able to dismantle. So, yeah.
Oh, good. Look at that. Artists at work, making change. I appreciate that. If there's no more questions from the board, I do want to thank the Atrium for their constant work and also to pitching in here on helping people, making sure that they were employed during a time when a lot of folks lost their jobs, particularly our artists. With everything closing down, this was a unique way to continue to do our effort. Madam Clerk, are there any members of the public signed up to speak on this item?
There are no members of the public signed up to speak for item number 4 at this time, and there are no hand raises by any of the authority members.
Great, thank you. Okay, well then we're moving along. This was a receive and file. We'll move on to our last item number 5.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk?
Yes, item number 5 is going to be a presentation by California Department of Resources and Recycling on updates to organic recycling laws, AB 1826 and SB 1383.
Great, thank you. And who do we have here today from Cal Recycle to present?
Today for Cal Recycling, we have Jill Furch, Robert Carlson, and Kara Morgan. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
perfect.
this is Jill Furch. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, great. And we have a PowerPoint. Thank you for inviting us to present today. My name is Jill Furch. I'm the Local Assistance Liaison for the Sacramento region. On the call with me is Kara Morgan, our branch chief, and Robert Carlson, my supervisor. Today's presentation will provide an overview of SB 1383 and the requirements for compliance. We will also go over how Sacramento's implementation of current legislation is positioning the county for compliance with 1383. Next slide.
I'm sorry, this is Darrell with the clerk of the board. We cannot see the PowerPoint out here. I just want to let you know before you continue. Just give me one moment.
Thank you for that, Madam Clerk. I was just about to.
That is the correct PowerPoint. Okay, now you can continue. We are on the next slide.
Okay, so slide 2. Okay, so 1383. Organic waste makes up 2/3 of California's waste, and food waste alone is the largest portion. In California, millions are food insecure. We are disposing of edible food that could be redirected to those in need. Next slide. Senate Bill 1383 is part of California's larger strategy to combat climate change. This law was designed to reduce global warming superpollutants like methane, which is up to 84 times more potent than carbon dioxide. To reduce methane now, we have to move away from landfilling organic waste like food, paper, and yard waste. Next slide. SB 1383 is a statewide target that requires California to reduce organic waste disposal by 75% and increase edible food recovery by 20% by the year 2025. The regulations were final as of November 2020. While the regulations take effect next year, jurisdictions should be planning now so they can be in compliance by January 1, 2022. Next slide. This slide provides an overview of the program requirements that each of the SWA jurisdictions will be required to adequately staff and resource. Jurisdictions will be required to provide organic waste collection services to all residents and businesses. This is what we refer to as automatically providing service or universal service. The resident or business is automatically provided the service rather than subscribing to it. There are regulations that standardize container colors across the state and labeling requirements on all containers. Jurisdictions can issue 3 types of waivers to generators: de minimis waivers to commercial businesses, physical space waivers, and collection frequency waivers. The department is currently reviewing whether residential de minimis waivers will be allowed, and we have shared this with Jennifer. CalRecycle can issue low population, rural exemptions, and high elevation waivers to jurisdictions that meet the thresholds. The regulations place organic recycling requirements on residents, commercial businesses, non-local entities, and local education agencies. Jurisdictions must also conduct annual education and outreach to all generators. Jurisdictions must also procure certain levels of recovered organic waste products, as well as comply with the procuring of recycled content paper and paper products. Organic waste products could include compost, mulch, renewable gas, or electricity from biomass conversion. Each jurisdiction will have a minimum organic waste product procurement target that is linked to its population. CalRecycle will notify jurisdictions of their target prior to January 1, 2022, and this target is in effect for 5 years. Each jurisdiction must plan for adequate capacity for recycling organic waste and edible food recovery. Sacramento County will lead this effort by coordinating with the cities and special districts that provide solid waste collection services in the county. Our office has been coordinating with Dave Ghirardelli to hold a capacity planning meeting for the region. CalRecycle will provide tools for organic waste capacity planning and edible food capacity planning, estimated to be released sometime during April. Jurisdictions must monitor compliance and conduct enforcement. Monitoring and education begins in 2022. Jurisdictions must do an annual compliance review of commercial businesses. There are contamination monitoring requirements of the contents of the containers, either through route reviews or waste evaluations. Jurisdictions will typically delegate this task to their hauler. To reduce reporting, jurisdictions are required to maintain records and keep information in an implementation record. Each jurisdiction is required to report to the department annually on its implementation and compliance with the requirements of 1383. Additionally, the requirements include that each jurisdiction must adopt an ordinance or enforceable mechanism consistent with the regulatory requirements by January 1st, 2022, as well as placing requirements on haulers that operate within the jurisdiction. Next slide. SB 1383 extends beyond waste management and recycling operations and staff. This slide shows that every department within local government will be affected and have a role to play. Each department will need to understand how 1383 impacts their work and will need to plan accordingly. Jurisdictions should be thinking and planning for the staffing they will need, whether they will task their direct service providers to staff some activities, and whether they will contract with other entities, such as environmental health inspectors or consultants. Next slide. Jurisdictions are responsible to implement edible food recovery programs in their communities. This includes identifying and providing education and outreach to all Tier 1 and Tier 2 commercial edible food generators. Assess capacity of existing edible food recovery and expanding existing infrastructure if necessary. Conducting inspections of Tier 1 commercial edible food generators and food recovery organizations and services beginning in 2022, and inspections of Tier 2 beginning 2024. Beginning in 2024, jurisdictions must take enforcement action if entities are out of compliance with the edible food recovery requirements. There are also record-keeping and reporting requirements. Leaders in the jurisdiction should be planning for this program and deciding which staff will have responsibility. For example, some will utilize health inspectors to conduct the inspections, as they are already inspecting food permit holders. and some will utilize public works staff to conduct the capacity planning and provide the education. This slide covers who the Tier 1 and the Tier 2 commercial edible food generators are. Next slide. By January 1st, 2022, each jurisdiction will need to have an enforcement and inspection program in place. Between January 2022 and December 2023, jurisdictions need to identify businesses in violation and provide educational material to those generators. Beginning January 2024, jurisdictions must take enforcement action against organic waste generators that are not in compliance. An early, robust education program will minimize the amount of enforcement action needed. Also, if the jurisdiction is automatically providing service to its residents and commercial businesses, then there should be little to no need for enforcement action. The county staff is already preparing for inspections of edible food generators and food recovery organizations. Next slide. How Recycle will be evaluating jurisdictions' compliance. The regulations provide an escalating enforcement process with the primary focus of conducting compliance evaluations so that jurisdictions can come into compliance with additional enforcement for egregious situations. SB 1383 is a statewide target and not a jurisdiction organic waste diversion target, unlike AB 939. Jurisdictions will have to demonstrate compliance with each of the regulation standards rather than the determination of a good faith effort. However, the regulations allow CalRecycle to consider substantial efforts made by the jurisdiction. Substantial effort is where a jurisdiction has done everything within its authority and ability to comply. It does not include circumstances where a decision-making body of a jurisdiction has not taken the necessary steps to comply with regulations, such as a failure to provide adequate staff resources to meet its obligations, or a failure to provide sufficient funding to meet its obligations, or failure to adopt the ordinance. Next slide. CalRecycle is helping jurisdictions in a number of ways, including the recently released 4 model tools: a model franchise agreement, a model mandatory ordinance, model procurement policy, model edible food recovery agreement. The R3 rate study was made available to jurisdictions in early of March 2020. We also have case studies on jurisdictions that have set rates, funded infrastructure, and educated the public and elected officials. Other tools CalRecycle is working on include in a tool to identify Tier 1 and Tier 2 commercial edible food generators. We've held 2 webinars in January and February on existing public and private funding and incentives for funding recycling manufacturer infrastructure. CalRecycle has begun working with a contractor on a data research for a statewide education campaign, an implementation record tool to help jurisdictions with maintaining the records, development of a procurement calculator tool, and a webinar was held to help jurisdictions plan and track for procurement activities. In April, we will have solid waste facility trainings for LEAs and facility operators at the LEA Technical Training Series so that they understand the facility measurement requirements. Best management practices for route reviews will be developed this summer. We have new web pages that are being developed, and our team can help with presenting to your local elected officials about requirements. Next slide. Current legislation, AB 1826, the mandatory organics recycling, really has served as a stepping stone to SB 1383. Designed to establish an organics recycling program throughout the county and working to institutionalize a curbside organics collection program. The regulation allowed for a phase-in approach beginning in 2016. In 2018, through our annual review, it was determined that the SWA had low compliance rates. This is one factor that the statute includes for CalRecycle to determine if a jurisdiction is making all reasonable and feasible efforts. The compliance level is based upon participation of covered generators subscribing to an organics collection program or self-hauling. We worked with the SWA on an implementation plan to address this gap. The SWA has made significant changes to their code, changes that can bring the region into full compliance. And I would like to acknowledge those changes and the work that went into making them. The current implementation plan has been presented to and accepted by our department and serves as a formal commitment by the SWA to implement to full compliance, which means 100% of the covered generators are participating in an organics recycling program or are self-hauling by end of 2021. Milestones in the formal plan that will be evaluated include automatic bin rollout to all remaining non-compliant 4 cubic yards or more generators, July-August of 2021, an automatic bin rollout to all remaining non-compliant 2 to 4 cubic yard generators, October-December 2021, and revoking current AB 1826 waivers for generators that are calculated to exceed the 10 or 20 gallons per week de minimis threshold. Currently, there are 2,678 de minimis waivers granted. Next slide. I would like to take the time to commend the SWA staff for diligently working towards implementing a program that will meet the SB 1383 regulations. Some highlights include the SWA's progressive approach to getting organic service to all 1826 generators by the end of 2021. Working with waste management and other city-county departments to develop an implementation plan. Working to develop contracts for organics processing. Working towards developing a list of all the Tier 1 and Tier 2 edible food generators, as well as identifying local food distribution programs. The city and the county have both evaluated and planned for rate restructuring to implement residential food green waste programs in January 2022. City and county staff are very proactive and easy to work with, and we look forward to seeing the region continue with its timeline to execute the program by January 1, 2022. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for your time, and I will open it up for questions now.
Great, thank you very much for that presentation. And Madam Clerk, do we have any members of the public who signed up to speak?
We do not have any verbal comment at this time for item number 5.
Well, thank you. I mean, this is obviously a challenge for many of our businesses who may be AB 1826 generators, and one that I think that our local governments to comply with 1383 are going to have to do a lot of outreach and make sure that we get folks ready for the compliance deadline. Matt, let me see. Let me turn it to the board. Do we have any members of the board who wish to speak on this? It's just a report. And obviously, we're going to have more as we go along in our respective jurisdictions. Yeah, Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you, Chair. Hang on, let me get on there. I guess I have one question of the presenter, and that's that, have other jurisdictions, because as the chair said, this is, and I'm a supporter 100% of the concept, but this is difficult for many of the businesses in our jurisdictions, but it's also difficult on the jurisdictions themselves, in that it's going to take a great deal of capital expenditure one way or another to meet the demands of the legislation. And we, take it very seriously and have been well on our way to do so. And then we were hit with a pandemic. In order for Sacramento County to really meet the needs, we're looking at significant expenditures that will require a fee increase of our customers. I think we will all agree that there's probably no worse time for a fee increase than during a pandemic when people can't make their rent or their mortgage. So I'm asking the presenter, have other jurisdictions come to Cal Recycle seeking a deferral based upon we're in completely different circumstances than we were just over a year ago or even a year ago? Based upon that, and is there any talk of perhaps pushing the deadline out a bit in order to help local jurisdictions and our customers recover from this pandemic and the huge economic impacts it has had.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. This is Kara Morgan. I'm the branch chief at Cal Recycle. I appreciate so very much your questions and your comments. There have been a number of jurisdictions that have asked if the timelines could be changed. Unless the legislature makes a change in those timelines, we're not able to grant a change in the timeline. With that said, Cal Recycle recognizes the significant challenge that jurisdictions have faced as a result of COVID. Again, one of the reasons, Jill providing the acknowledgement to all of you and all that you have been able to accomplish in light of the many challenges is to be commended. Because Cal Recycle understands that there will be some aspects of your program that you're just not able to implement by January 1, 2022, Cal Recycle is looking towards jurisdictions move down the path of compliance. So what we have communicated to jurisdictions is that Cal Recycle and the regulations has enforcement discretion, such that if we do conduct a compliance evaluation of a jurisdiction and there are gaps, the jurisdiction will be given time to address those gaps. We will only move down an enforcement pathway if we need to, if we have an egregious situation, et cetera. I think the efforts and what I have been following with what all of you have been doing to move down that path to compliance, you are really demonstrating that. And, from my perspective, if we were, I think we will be prioritizing our compliance evaluations, and jurisdictions like yourselves who may not be able to, because of the pandemic, meet the deadlines by January 1, you will have other things in place and be moving towards compliance. So does that help at all, Mr. Kennedy?
Actually, yes, it does very much, and I appreciate the open-mindedness of the thinking that's gone into it.
Yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you. And I feel like a lot of our jurisdictions have actually used that strategy where we maintain the deadline, but look at enforcement, considering the hardships that are effective to the businesses. And if anyone here can move the legislature, well, then that's more power to you here for any of our board members. But I think our best effort from now moving forward is probably working very diligently to educate our businesses, and particularly, I know my district and Supervisor Kennedy has a significant chunk of Little Saigon. Language access is going to be a big challenge, particularly when we have 4 or 5 different languages in just a 1 mile stretch. So with that, any other questions from the board members? Oh, yes.
Oh, I just wanted to add, this is Kara Morgan again, just wanted to share, if there is anything that Cal Recycle can do in the way of providing translation of any of our outreach materials for commercial businesses. We have already translated the materials, I believe, into 6 different languages. But if your staff can just, let Jill know what the needs are, we're happy to do that. We also are beginning a statewide education campaign, and we'll have potential training that we will hopefully have first training coming out later in June that I hope your staff will be able to attend, and we'll have toolkits coming out in the fall. That's more focused on kind of residential, but anything that we can do to assist each of you, we're here to utilize our resources as well to enhance your efforts.
Well, thank you very much. And no sense in reinventing the wheel, and I always like to use the cut and paste function. It's always fun too. So if there are no more questions from our board, I appreciate the staff for their presentation. And with that, Madam Clerk, does that conclude the business on the agenda?
Yeah, we actually have just item number 6, which is comments from the public.
Oh, I see.
And we do have 1 comment to be made. Can you please send that caller? Hello, caller, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so you have 2 minutes to make your public comment. You can go ahead and start.
Okay. This is Mike Lean, L&D Landfill. And since this is heading towards the last meeting of SWA, I wanted to make a couple of comments related to that. I wanted to thank the electeds and the SWA staff for their efforts over the years to make this program work, and we are looking forward to the future and are here to help and do what we can do to facilitate this new approach and the changes in front of us. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you, Mr. Lean, and we know you and Tim and the Lean family have been operating, I think even before the SWA was created, watched the SWA be created and now dissolved, and thank you for your consistent engagement in executing the work that we do here.
Well,
great.
Thank you, and we look forward to the future.
More to come. Well, thank you very much. And with that, Madam Clerk, that concludes our agenda.
Yes.
And we're adjourned for indefinitely here. Thank you, everyone, for serving on the SWA.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, have a good one.